welcome to Southern Virginia University Night Broadcasting. I'm Scotty Winterton, joined by my colleague Jordan Sorensen. We come to you what is currently a beautiful spring afternoon. Not exactly sure how the sun found its way onto the field today, as about 2 hours ago it was literally snowing and blowing. Had to be in at least a 20-degree wind chill.
It was interesting.
I don't know what happened. Spring in Virginia seems to not be able to make up its mind, but nevertheless, the sun here in Buena Vista, Virginia has come through. The field is beautiful. We have two fantastic teams on store for you today. We have the Knights women's lacrosse team coming up against the North Carolina Wesleyan College Battling Bishops. These two teams come in at the top of the USA South rankings. Both are 3-0 in conference. Both teams come in with a solid win streak. The Knights on a 3-game win streak, having won 4 of the last 5, and the Battling Bishops on a 4-game win streak as well. Jordan, these two teams at the top of the USA South Conference, this is a really important game for both teams.
Absolutely. I mean, this is controlling who's leading the conference at this point moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see how both teams' strategies compare. As both teams run motion offenses with key sets to get their key players set up for best opportunities to score. Typical man defense, there's a lot of similarities there. The Knights, a huge point of emphasis for them is in the transition game. So we'll see how that plays a role as we prepare for the opening draw here in the center circle.
In the preseason poll, the Knights were picked to finish second, very close to Meredith. Meredith College, I guess you could say they are also undefeated in conference as the Knights win the first draw. When you look at the standings, Meredith is also undefeated, as I mentioned, 2-0. The Knights are 3-0. Wesleyan is 3-0. But when you go to the preseason poll, one of the interesting notes is that Wesleyan was picked to finish 8th, well out of the top 5 in terms of total points garnered by the poll. So it's been fantastic to see the Battling Bishops really outperform their preseason ranking. This game, I think, will be a test for the Bishops to see where they really are in terms of the top echelon of the conference as the Knights come in that initial pass from the Knights, Tyler John, the sophomore midfielder from Sandy, Utah, finding number 2, who else, Jordan, than Alyssa Johnson.
Absolutely.
The junior from Salt Lake City. Alyssa Johnson comes into the game with 29 points, 19 goals, 10 assists. This will be her 20th goal, first on the team to reach 20 goals. One of the top players in the conference.
Well, I think it'll be an interesting matchup. In fact, we have obviously Alyssa Johnson, we just mentioned, and for the Battling Bishops, Blair Harley, number 6 from Owings, Maryland, who are 2 of the top 5 scorers in the conference. With Harley, number 6, the number 1 goal scorer in conference currently. So seeing that matchup, they won't be direct, obviously, but how each player is able to handle their side of the field will be a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. 34 goals, 2 assists for Blair Harley, which is a pretty unique stat, I feel like, in the women's game. The women's game is so smooth and team-oriented that rarely do you see somebody with that disparity in goals and assists. So I'm really excited to see her on offense. Excellent grab from the Knights' Adelaide Smith. I'm not even sure how she caught up to that ball and kept control of it. Really appreciated the development of the Knights' passing, catching skill sets. I know it sounds simple, but one of the more difficult things to do in athletics, they talk about how hard it is to hit a round ball with a round bat in terms of baseball and softball. Crossover, little lob pass, right in the middle to Chloe Mitchell. Shot is wide. Knights will back it up. I know, so we have an overlay of the scoreboard. 1-0 you see for the Knights. I know we don't have the clock, so we will do a lot of clock call-outs today with 13 minutes left in this first quarter. Tyler John sneaking underneath the defense. Great save from number 24, Devin Bouts, the sophomore goalie, 5'6", from Laurel, Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great save, primarily as John has so much athleticism, able to sneak along the crease right in front of the goal, and the goalie was able to keep pace with her, shuffling along and closing off the angle. So great play from both players, the goalie coming up with the save.
We're seeing so far that the Knights are able to kind of slice through the middle. As you see exactly what I'm talking about. John crosses over, switches hands, chooses not to shoot. She is defended well by Harley.
And to your point earlier about the difficulty in catching these interior passes, the Knight motion offense, which runs from the top of the field right there, is heavily dependent on pushing girls through and passing back, just like that as John completes the goal. That's a quintessential Knight offensive set right there.
So with Chloe Mitchell coming across the top, drawing the double team, throwing back to a cutting John, who is able to come down the middle, have the shooting space that she needs, finishes, gets the ball past Bouts. Bouts comes in by having split time with Micaiah Owens in goal. Owens with about a fifth of the time that Bouts is. But Bouts is clearly their starting goalie. She comes in giving up about 12 goals per game, a 35% save average, which you'd like to see that closer to 45 to 50% for the goalies. On the Knights side, Jessica Webb is right at that 43% save average, 11.75 per game in terms of goals given up.
Well, I think, and you really look at how the Devin Bouts has turned it on in the last couple of games, and they've 4-0 in their last 4 games. As they come down here on the offensive side, we get the first offensive set from the Battling Bishops.
And you saw Harley match up against Tupu Mulitalo. Tupu, for me, has been probably the most aggressive defender and maybe even the best defender of the freshmen for the Knights. Very aggressive in how she plays, excellent on the athleticism. You would expect her to be so. Her dad, a former NFL player, 11-year veteran. Double team against Harley's. Smart from the Knights to double team Harley as much as possible and get the ball out of her stick. The next closest goal scorer for the Bishops is Madeline Graham with 15, so less than half of the goals scored compared to her teammate Harley. Harley with the cut, unable to come up with the pass. Adelaide Smith quickly down the field, punt return clear. You love it when your defenders or midfielders can move the ball down right away, outrunning the midfield of the riding team, get the ball down and settle things up without much of a contest.
Yeah, it makes transitioning a lot easier when you can get down quickly and not have to worry about too much passing or anything else. So the transition game is huge for the Knights and so far effective. We'll see if they can continue what they've already built on with those 2 early goals, if they can use those motion sets coming in from the top and find those open passing lanes. Addison England moving around the top. We've seen her a lot in the last couple of games, doing a phenomenal job, being very aggressive going to goal and just trying to prove herself a goal scorer on this field.
And she is listed, as a defender, a freshman, as a violation call. The Knights will have a free play opportunity. England, the freshman from Sandy, Utah, played at Brighton High School. John here will trigger for the Knights. Bouts looking to get her first up, and a very slick shot comes in. Not quite a twister pulling it back across her body, but definitely looked like she was going to go left side, pulls it back to the right. Bouts didn't have much of a chance. Defenders, you talk about this, Jordan, in those free play positions, they have to squeeze down. Problem is John is so quick on her first 2 steps that catching up to her is difficult.
Yeah, and that's what we saw right there. She was able to outrun the defenders to her wings, get close enough, and to your point earlier, she's squaring her shoulders to the goal, right? So once you have both, it doesn't matter if you're running right or left, if you can square your shoulders, it makes shooting significantly easier because you can basically place it wherever you want without worrying about your momentum taking you too far left or too far right. And John does a great job of positioning her upper body for a great shot.
Draw control taken. Addison England hasn't had many opportunities on the draw control. That is, she only has England only has, I believe it's 5 wins on the season. This will be her 6th.
And they're going to say that the North Carolina Wesleyan player went a little early on the draw, and so it gave the Knights the advantage.
And England with the sweet pass to the cutting Johnson, and Alyssa Johnson goes behind the back doing her best ESPN Top 10 impersonation. I think I heard a dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun on the field. I don't know if ESPN will pick that up, but fantastic shot from Alyssa Johnson. Bouts had no idea where the shot was coming from, nor did we. Haven't seen that much out of Johnson, but she is very creative on the field.
And not only that, the skill level involved in the shot, she perfectly turned her shoulders to goal and then used her stick behind her back in a way that it's almost impossible for a goalie to see. So it's a very, very difficult shot for any goaltender, and just a great fundamentals of the mechanics of actually shooting that and finishing strong. So great job from Alyssa Johnson, who does exactly what she should do, score goals.
That's her job. Mentioned she's the leading scorer goal for the Knights. That's her 2nd goal of the day, 21st on the season. Comes in also with 10 assists. Came into the game with a 46% shooting percentage, which is really high for the number of shots that she's taken. She's taken 41 shots on the season, and to be able to have that high of a shooting percentage is really impressive.
And North Carolina won that off of illegal movement from the Knights, but they're trying to get settled in their offense, and they haven't really been able to slow it down and push it through. And so far, they're still struggling on the outside of the field as the Knights get the turnover. Good aggressive defense from Tupu causes the turnover, and Knights go straight into the transition game.
Mutalo navigating her way down the field, triple teamed, finds John in transition. And save. Bouts doing a great job. That'll be her first save of the game. Knights trying to put pressure on the clear as Ashleen, there's a turnover. Knights now coming back down with Chloe Mitchell on the ball. Players looking a little tired, the back and forth. England, nobody picks her up. She gets into the heart of the defense and cannot finish. Bouts with her 2nd save. Great save from Bout. Skylar Rowe grabs the ball and will get it back in for the Knights. John from behind.
Yeah, as we see the battling Bishops setting up their defensive set, and they're pressing out to that 12-meter, which is that line all the way kind of at the top of the offensive set, and playing very aggressive. And so far, it paid off right there for it as they're able to get the check and knock that ball down. Alyssa Johnson setting up the offense from the top, looking at her going to goal. She's trying her best, looking for the interior feed. She gets through and gets the shooting space call.
That check from Naomi Gitaya was a fantastic check to save the goal coming across the face of goalie Devin Bouts. Eventually it'll end up in the stick of Johnson. And this free position shot for her. Last time the Knights had this, they ended up going straight to goal and scoring. This time Johnson will throw the ball back to Mitchell, and the Knights will trigger their offense with John. Little hesitation, stop and go, trying to find the angle. She gets to the angle. That little crossover as you drive left. Underhand shot, low pass from Johnson. Catches it low. And the impressive thing about Johnson, I mentioned this before, that her creativity with shooting, she's really taken pride in doing some things that we haven't seen a lot of Knights offensive players do. And that's be able to shoot from different angles, underhand, sidearm, obviously overhand. To be able to change your angles on those shots, not only does it help in terms of keeping the goalie on their toes, don't really know where they're coming from, but in that instance, Jordan, she catches the ball low. She's able to take, turn, and shoot right away.
Yeah, and that is obviously higher level of difficulty for the women's game is they don't have those bigger pockets that you'll see from like the men's game. So the sticks can be tougher to control when the stick is low like that. So that's good play by Johnson and her really showing the mastery of her craft. She's able to finish low on just a great shot on goal. We come here back to the draw circle as the Knights have, for the most part, been able to take control at this point in the game. They're able to get control again there with Chloe Mitchell coming down between her and Johnson, feeding, dishing, and winning that draw control. Addison England in the center of the field, she moves to her right. She shoots it just off to the right-hand side. The Knights will maintain position, as again in lacrosse, if it's a shot, whoever is closest to the ball when it goes out of bounds maintains possession.
Conversation with the referees. One of the referees will come over and confer with the table, let us know what's going on. Might be a shot clock or a time clock situation. Yeah, it looks like they're going to let some time run off of the shot clock. 75 seconds left on the shot clock. 6:45 in the first quarter. Knights up 5-0 as they're moving the ball around. And thus far, it's been the Knights. We've only seen the Battling Bishops with maybe one sort of offensive opportunity. And the rest of the time, the Knights in the ride are turning over the Bishops. And that's a really tough place to be when you're just constantly playing defense. The Knights are going to really work on their offensive possessions. Piper Searle looking to trigger. And now over to the Knights' leading scorer, Alyssa Johnson. 30 seconds left on the shot clock. Johnson pump faking, trying to find cutting players. The movement of her feet, creating open scenarios. You need to create passing lanes, and so you can't throw flat-footed. The check on A.J. Upchurch puts the ball on the ground, and Johnson will get the ball back again with a new shot clock, now at 90 seconds.
Yeah, there was good defense on that interior pass, knocking that down. Couldn't quite control it in the transition, and the Knights were able to recover and set up their set. And again, look how they're setting up this high-motion offense. So much of what the Knights do is centered on the skill of these top girls really rotating through, creating open passing lanes. And if the lane doesn't develop, having the quickness, the ability, and the athleticism to cut to goal themselves.
There, Alyssa Johnson does not draw the double team. So the cutting England was not open. England tries to feed Mitchell. Ball knocked down. Ground ball from Aislinn Key. And Aislinn was fighting with John over there. Two Knights on the ground ball. And that's something you'll look for when there's a ball on the ground. How many of each jersey do you see around?
Yeah.
Do you see two? Do you see three? That kind of swarming mentality is really important for a team who is trying to battle for like 50-50 balls. Those little small moments, that instance, the Knights were able to get 2 or 3 around the ball. That you're going to end up with most ground balls in that scenario. And the Bishops need to try to capitalize on those moments. Once they can get a save and get it clear. Ball gets on the ground, that's fine. It happens. You need to have players swarming around it, especially when you're trying to come back from a 5-goal deficit. This ball, again, not able to complete the clear. Turnover near their offensive end. Knights will quickly trigger ahead to Johnson and then back to Bailey Bruce, the defensive freshman.
I say, Fouts had a great save earlier there, putting a stop to Piper Searle's shot as they transition up the field. Again, just struggling with some of those passes down on the other side of the field. The Knights recover, push it down the field, and then turn the ball right back over. A little bit of sloppy play at this point in the game, but this is kind of where, if you're a coach, you kind of want to see that now so you can iron it out before we hit the second quarter, third quarter. First quarter is where you're trying to work on those little details and get everyone 100% into the game.
74 seconds on the shot clock. Overpass. we just really haven't been able to see anything from the leading scorer in the conference, Blair Harley, because the ball hasn't been down on the offensive end. And Harley has had to play a lot of defense now. Be interesting to see how much she has in the tank when the ball is down on offense.
Yeah, Piper Cyril making her presence known on the last two possessions there from Kaysville, Utah, Davis High School, as the Knights rotate the ball around into their typical motion offense, running the sets that they're most comfortable with. And we're going to see how effective, again, this interior pass game is, which is what they've been really pushing for.
Mitchell tries a roll dodge, doesn't work out, does find Searle. Searle takes a shot off the pipe into the hands of Johnson. Johnson can't find shooting space to get the pass off. Inside out, looked like she wanted to go backhand. Chooses better of it, or thinks better of it, and gets the ball back out to John.
We'll see how John creates here to the outside. A lot of what she's able to do comes from just that high athleticism that she has.
Great shot from Johnson. She catches that pass and goes off of 1 foot, brings the ball high over her shoulder. And in that instance, whether you go high or low, the goalie is going to struggle to read it. In this instance, she goes low, and that's really tough, Jordan, for a goalie when you bring that ball up so high and you're doing a little jump shot, a little half hook, kind of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar style shot, and you bring that low, it's really hard to catch up to it.
Yeah, you get your not just your momentum more thrown to the shot, helping you increase the power level, but like you said, you have so many options as to the level of your shot, whether you keep it high, bring it all the way down low, and it is very tough as a goaltender to not just read those shots, but stay in front of it, especially when they're put in the back left post like that last one was.
Yep. Mitchell will take the draw, going up against Carly Bergstrom. And Alyssa Johnson will secure it. Draw control goes in favor of Mitchell. Quickly ahead to Smith. She sees a lane, closes down. Good job from the defense of the Bishops to collapse those lanes. Just like in basketball, when somebody's looking to drive and you're adjacent to that dodge, if you can collapse the lane, really pinch in and force the defender to think better of splitting that, as well as get back out to your player, you've done a really good job trying to stall the offense. That's why you'll see a lot of the nights, good offense will clear out a side as a dodge is coming. They'll make sure they're clearing through and creating space. Right here, declining the pick, getting high, and pushed down is Piper Searle. It's aggressive defense from Carly Bergstrom. Bergstrom is going to be, they're not going to give her a card. I think it looked a little worse than it was.
Yeah.
Just because Searle was on her right foot. She was leaning back. And when she got pushed, she had no base underneath her and goes falling backwards. And so it wasn't really so much a mean-spirited play as just awkward timing.
And on top of that, what refs are really looking for is the extension of the arms and whether or not you're putting your actual stick or your hands on the player's stick. They're going to call that often and possibly give a card. She did a good job on defense as we've got a player down on the field.
Natalie Rice, without contact, goes down quickly. These are always scary moments when this happens. Non-contact injuries.
Yeah, and obviously we can only speculate as to what may or may not happen, but our thoughts are with Natalie Rice. She is down on the field at this moment.
Coaches come out there along with the athletic training staff.
It looked like she went to plant from going one direction back to the other direction and just felt something in her, possibly her knee, and just came down. So we'll see what the trainers spend some time with her, and we'll come back later on about where we are with the situation.
So 6-0 with 37 seconds left in the quarter, 19 seconds on the shot clock. So first quarter's almost done. Looking through the stats for the Knights, as you would expect, up 6-0, have dominated the play. But the thing that I think stands out the most, Jordan, is just the fact that the Bishops yet to have a shot. Not only not a shot, but not a shot on goal. And I think that has to go with, one, the Knights have done a pretty good job in draw control, 4-2. But even on those draw control wins, only one of them resulted in an offensive possession when the team was able to get down and settle the offense.
Yeah, a huge point of emphasis for the Knights over the kind of middle portion here of the season has been in their transition play. And really, you'll notice what they do a lot of is bunch the players into the middle of the field and force you to struggle to get the ball from the 40 to the 40 on the other side, as we see it here on the field. And that section is where the Knights have caused a lot of turnovers for numerous teams throughout the season, and where they've been playing the most aggressive. And to your point earlier with the shots, the Knights have also pressed very heavily on the outside of the 12, again, that exterior arc coming away from the cage, and making those, what normally for a lot of teams are those easy passes around the cage, a lot more difficult and frustrating teams trying to get into their offensive sets. And it's been effective up to this point.
As Natalie is helped off the field, she comes into the game 7th on the team in scoring with 6 goals and 2 assists, 8 points on the season, 13 shots, 12 shots on goal. Great. Her shots on goal percentage of 92% is fantastic. She's 2 out of 7 on her free position goals, and 2 ground balls. So very much a strong contributor for the Knights team. They'll sub in for her, but definitely you're going to miss her offensive productivity. Piper Searle tries to get the shot off before the whistle goes off, but just before she shoots, the shot clock expires. 12 seconds on the game clock. And I'm not sure that the urgency out of the Bishops. Well, here's Ashleen Key trying to get down, create something with short time. The clock ends. Bringing an end to the first quarter. Coach Whitworth, I'm sure, happy with the overall score. I'm sure the team is thinking and worried about Natalie on the sideline. Natalie Rice, now Natalie Ewell. And the team will gather around Coach Whitworth. On the other side, Coach Bridget Walker, in her 5th season as head coach of the NC Wesleyan College Battling Bishops, will gather her team around her. Fortunately, they have yet to have any injuries, and hopefully it stays that way for the Bishops. A little bit thin on the bench, which can happen this time of the season when injuries pile up. You have the nicks and the bruises and the bumps. Sometimes it can be hard to keep the team at full strength this time of the season.
And the Battling Bishops, as we mentioned earlier, are coming off 4 straight wins, the best winning streak in the history of the program, which is only a 5-year program. So it's still a young, developing program. And you see Coach Bridget Walker has really turned that on this season with the already most successful season they've had as a program as far as wins in a season, best winning streak in program history. And to your point, you get all those wins strung together, and you're going to have nicks and bruises and injuries. And they've dealt with that just as all teams do, but they have used that streak to come to top of the conference, or number 2 in the conference up to this point. And what an impressive achievement they've been able to have up to this point in the season as Coach Bridget Walker looks to continue that momentum coming on the back half of the season.
2 of those wins in the last 4 games have been against conference foes, William Peace and Greensboro. And it was, I think, it was a good time for those games to come for the Bishops. Those two teams were picked to finish last in the conference. So in order to kind of build your momentum and confidence to get 2 conference wins, even if it is against the teams that were picked to finish at the bottom of the conference, still it's a really good thing for, as you mentioned, Coach knows this is our biggest longest win streak in the 5 seasons. These things are opportunities for teams to gather momentum, build confidence, which you want going into the kind of heart of the season where things can get a little monotonous. You don't really have conference playoffs to look forward to quite yet. So this is important timing for the Bishops. And again, we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the game, Jordan, that this game would be a good measurement stick, a good litmus test for the Bishops to see where they really are in the conference.
And you see Ashleen King taking it out. Key, we've seen her a lot in this first quarter coming into the second. She's one of those names on the defensive end that if there's a transition coming around, she tends to be involved. She's been very active on the defensive side. So the Knights get the turnover, bring it down to their offensive set, and slow it down. I think wisely so. Alyssa Johnson, recognizing the team wasn't quite set up, not in position, slows it down, brings it to the key players. Let's get into our motion offense and continue to work the field, work on our transition cuts, and work on what they tend to do best. Now, they've got the ball at X, which is behind the cage, directly behind the cage. This is where the Knights have run a lot of isolation sets, really trying to penetrate, go to goal, wrap around the goal for a goal, or rotate it back up for their motion. Those are kind of the 2 ways the offense likes to score.
And thus far, we've seen most of the goals come from those dodges and then feeding. In fact, if you look across the board, of these 6 goals that the Knights have, 5 of them have been assisted. So, they are the only one that was unassisted was that free shot from Tyler John. Really King from up top, trying to find Chloe Mitchell. That was Abby Pepperoni. Couldn't connect. And quickly up the right-hand side, you see Lily McCarty.
Again, that tough pass contested by the Knights in transition where they like to center so many girls in that center of the field. Can't quite get through. The Knights cause the turnover, slow it down, and get back into their offensive set. I'll be curious how the Knights come in from this point of the game moving forward on if they try to run some very specific offensive plays, some stack plays, or any more high screens trying to free girls up, and experimenting with different sets to give them looks as they continue conference play.
Yeah, if the Knights are able to continue scoring, not necessarily even at the pace that they're at, but like on the defensive end, in the ride, turning the ball over, turning over the Bishops. Nice dodge, just inside the post, and it goes outside and hits the net. Bouts will quickly outlet to Harley as she finds Key. Key using her impressive speed to break down the Knights' ride. But Mulitalo drives her outside. They call a play on, and then the turnover into the stick of Chloe Mitchell. And she'll quickly advance to John. Bishops do a good job of getting their defensive unit back. Oh, great cross. The split dodge from Adelaide Smith. John finds her. It looked like she was defended really well. The defender was there, no shooting space to do anything with the ball. But then she stops, puts the brakes on, splits, gets it into her left hand, and then finishes.
Yeah, again, the defense did a great job. It was just to keep up with the split dodge there where she changes momentum and the stick into the left-hand side. And that is, especially in the open field, that's a very, very difficult dodge to stay with defensively. And she's able to separate her hands just enough to get a high-quality bouncer to the right-hand side of the goalie and just a great finish. And I think we have to note that Adelaide Smith is only a freshman. And she has really come along as a key role player for this Knights team. And Coach Whitworth has got to be excited as how she can develop, not just this season, but for the rest of her career. You like to see that out of your freshman. Good productivity, good finishes, and smart heads-up play on the field.
That's her 7th goal of the season. She also has added an assist, so 8 points on the season. Johnson secures the draw, and then the dodge and finish from Addison England.
You'll hear us talk about this a lot, and this and any broadcast where Addison England is playing in that game is when she gets the ball, you can just see in her countenance, the way that she plays, she wants to go to goal. And that is a high-quality thing in a shooter because it forces the defense to react. And as she scores, which, again, that was just a great run straight at the cage and impressive power to finish that shot, she draws the defense's attention, and pretty soon they're going to send the early slides, the doubles, and then she's able to effectively feed other people. You like to see when a player can kind of command the presence on the field and force the defense to react to that. And Addison England has just done a really good job of establishing herself as a key scorer and someone that will drive to goal for the Knights.
That's her 12th goal on the season. She also had an assist in this game, so that will give her 15 points on the season, which coming into this game is enough to put her in 4th place on the team in total scoring.
And Addison England gets the turnover right there, or at least knocks it down. We'll see if the Knights can recover it as they do here.
Behind the back pass from Alyssa
Shot,
Johnson.
pass, it's all behind the back for Johnson today.
Well, triple teamed, couldn't get her stick free. Really smart play. Using what she had to get the ball to her teammate. Again, love the creativity of Alyssa Johnson. The Knights bleeding a little time off the clock. There's 10.5 left in the second quarter.
They're moving the ball high on the outside as they anticipate setting up some cuts through the middle, is how they traditionally set this up. And I think they are. They're whittling down a little bit of that shot clock and looking for the right offensive set. Rotate it through, and now they start attacking the ball. They realize the clock's running through, and here comes the attack as it starts with Adelaide Smith trying to draw that feed and look for that little give-and-go kind of impression, which they've been so effective on in the season.
England finds the cutting Johnson, who can't get shooting space after she controls the ball. And England has the left alley to dodge with. She won't take it.
7 seconds, running out of time.
Shot clock down to 5. And there will be a shot clock violation. Johnson takes a shot really intentionally wide to avoid any kind of goalie quick save and outlet. Now the Knights can set up their ride.
Yeah, again, it's kind of a heads-up thing. If you know you're not going to get the shot off and the shot clock's coming down, you want to kind of get the shot out behind the goal. Therefore, the other team has to take the ball out behind the goal, giving your ride more time to set up to try to prevent the transition.
Aisling Key does a great job getting the ball upfield. And now first shot from Blair Harley, and we see why she's the leading scorer in the conference. Her first shot on goal goes in goal. She's got a 45% shooting percentage. You see why with that shot. Putting the Bishops on the scoreboard for the first time this afternoon.
Yeah,
with just under 9 minutes left to go in the quarter.
So that was a great catch and a really strong cradle. You see she caught that in between the 8 and the 12, those two red lines that you'll see at the top, is able to just kind of knife through the first defender as she just kind of face dodges it, which she brings the entire stick to her left-hand side, then back to her right, and finishes with a strong bounce shot just to the right. And it can be difficult as a goaltender when you haven't seen too many shots on the day, and then your first one comes, hard, quality shot like that. It's a hard thing to step in front of. As we come back to the draw circle, and it looks like we have a violation on the Knights, and the Battling Bishops will recover it, and they'll have their second straight possession.
Yeah, I think you're being a little generous in saying not seeing many shots. That was actually the first shot that she's seen on the afternoon. So definitely, you might say, kind of cooled down in terms of her warm-up. When you go a full quarter and a half of a quarter, so basically 20 minutes of game time without seeing a shot, hard to really keep your hands and your feet warm in terms of quickness and the ability to make the save.
Especially with the wind chill. A little bit of wind still blowing through there. It doesn't do anything to keep you warm.
Yep. And the Knights are still in their man-to-man defense.
And look how high they're pressing out. They're really trusting their defenders to put that pressure. And if they're able to, if the offense is able to beat the defense for the slides to come, and they're able to force the errant throw and the turnover as John puts on the Jets in the middle of the field.
Trying to be chased down from Bricia Reynolds. And eventually that pass ends up with the ground ball into Bouts. Bouts will outlet to her right, trying to secure a clear. Again, this has been one of the bigger struggles for the Bishops. And almost a turnover. Neither team can come up with the ball. Looks like it's going to go off the stick of Emily Sullivan.
Well, you mentioned earlier, one thing the Knights like to do is put a lot of jerseys on the ball in transition. And there you saw it, 2 to 3 white jerseys around a blue jersey at all times. And that's exactly what you want in an effective ride.
The Knights work the ball through the middle of the field on the clear. Eventually England. And over to Searle, who will now start the Knights offense. The Knights do really well when they get the ball in the hands of John in this set where she comes up high. She's playing attack, but when she comes up high and really triggers and starts offense for the Knights, good things happen.
See them running a set here from X or right behind the cage. And again, that's where they tend to run isolation dodges, but they eventually work it up to the top of the field. And now we'll see if they can run some cuts, maybe a draw and dump, which another type of set that they've been running a lot up to this point in the game. See that athleticism on display.
First time we've seen Michaela Martin, the attackman, freshman out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Haven't really seen much in terms of initiation from her. It was good to see her initiating with that left hand. Eventually, she'll end up with a free play. Straight away, it's very difficult, and the bounce shot finds the back of the net. Martin hopping up and down. Just her second goal in the season. 2 goals now, 2 assists.
Yeah, and that was a good, strong, high bouncer, hitting it off the turf and bouncing it just over the goalie's shoulder, which is very difficult as a goaltender to adjust to. So it was a high-quality shot and a great finish. And with her second goal, the great thing about something like that is it's just that momentum building for her. You feel more and more confidence in those sets that you can finish, and that confidence is a key ability to be able to finish those shots. So exactly what Coach Whitworth would like to see from a young freshman.
That's her first free play goal on the season as well. She had one other opportunity in which she shot from the free play, could not finish. Finishes that one. And you saw it in the excitement. When you get those first couple goals, they're always really exciting. Good win from Bergstrom on the draw control, but then the turnover off of the stick of Harley, and Mitchell will bring the ball down. And it hasn't always been the pressure from the Knights. Sometimes it's just been a little bit sloppy passing. There'll be a timeout from Coach Whitworth. 5.5 left in the second quarter, just over 80 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah, that's where you really want to bring in how do you want to close out the half? That's the talk that coaches are giving their teams right now. Obviously, for the Knights, they want control of the clock, control of the possession, and to not allow the Battling Bishops any offensive opportunities. If you're the Battling Bishops, your goal, obviously, you're not looking for 8-9 goals, try to tie this up. You're looking for give us 1, give us 2 goals, give us momentum going into halftime so that we can come out in the second half with that momentum and continue to try to chip away at a lead. But both coaches are put in completely different circumstances. And again, this is the time where they're really preaching, how do we want to finish and go into halftime?
And with that thin bench, some of the leading scorers on the team, we haven't seen them on the field. You have players like Madeline Graham, who comes in with 18 points on the season, on 28 shots, 53% shooting. She's taken the next most by far free position plays. Obviously, Harley is taking 31. Graham, though, is taking 13. And Graham has not been on the field. She's not one of those that's been out there. So, clearly they're missing some of their best players, and that can really hurt the chemistry of your offense. The Knights will come out leading by 8, trying to get into double digits in the scoring book. We'll see what magic Coach Whitworth and her staff have come up with.
Yeah, I would expect them to utilize a good amount of this shot clocks, probably a good 30 seconds of pushing the ball around before they try to penetrate with maybe a dodge from behind or a draw and dump, which they've been doing quite a bit here from the top.
At what point as a coach do you want to put the brakes on your team without doing it too early and kind of stalling your momentum and kind of bringing your players down?
Yeah, usually you're looking about the 10, 11 goal differential mark. So I think the Knights are still playing for their full offensive set at this point, maybe just utilizing a bit more of that shot clock before the shots come in. But they should be going full tilt up to this, still in this point of the game.
Ball ends up in the stick of Bouts with Michaela Martin trying to initiate that offense.
And that's the second time she's come from that right-hand side of the field, put it in her left hand, and really ran and dodged through to get angle for that shot. That time, she doesn't get the angle that she wants and put it just off cage. But she's been favoring that side, and that's always fun to see a player who has that left-handed confidence coming from that side of the field.
Not able to keep the ball in. There was basically 5 players around 2 in that corner, which meant, Jordan, there were a lot of players open, but it's kind of hard for Wesleyan to find them with so much pressure on their hands. We talk about, if you're 1 versus 49 and you're the defender on the ball and the person on the ball, because of the ball pressure, because of pressure on their hands, they can't find any of the 49 other players, 1 versus 50, then those other 49 players aren't open. If it's, you versus 50, if you can stop that one player on the ball from seeing and finding the other players, then they're not open. And in a case like that, where you have basically 5 players around 2, there are a lot of open players, but the ball pressure kept the offensive player's eyes down, and she wasn't able to find her teammates.
And that's exactly right.
With England, as we've come to expect, her aggressive play and a really slick shot just on the inside post. There wasn't a lot of space over there, and she's able to find the back of the cage for the Knights' 10th goal.
Yeah, she was running to her right-hand side and just used a lot of the torque of her upper body as she swings that stick around to her left-hand side and is able to finish with a strong bouncer just to the right hip of the goalie. It's just a well-placed shot. It puts the goalie in a tough spot where they're tracking you as you're running one way. You shoot back to the other side, and it can be difficult to change your momentum from stepping with the shooter to coming back on the other side, and she's able to take advantage and just have a beautiful shot to the left-hand side of the cage.
Her second goal on the afternoon. brings England to 13 total goals for the season, and she'll come in to take the draw control for Chloe Mitchell.
I would expect going into the second half that we will see a lot more Addison England, as again, she traditionally plays defense, but has transitioned more to a midfield player being involved on the offensive end, which I think is probably a great strategy from Coach Whitworth, as she's proven a high level of efficacy on that side of the field.
She has such an intensity. When that ball's in her stick, there's a energy around her play that is really fun to see, because she wants so much to get to the cage. And you love having players like that, because you need initiators. You need players that can put the defense in a position where they feel like they have to double team or create rotation. And once you can create that rotation, now you're going to find open players on secondary cuts.
That's exactly right. We had illegal movement on the draw on North Carolina Wesleyan, and so the ball goes to the Knights, who push it into their offensive set. 60 seconds on the shot clock, 2:33 on the game clock. Look to them to whittle away a couple more seconds from the shot clock before they press on to goal.
Knights still with all their starters on the field.
Just working that ball to the outside. As Johnson doesn't see the pass coming through, she was looking to see where the rest of her team was setting up. Miscommunication from the top. They're able to recover the ball and get back into their offensive set.
England now looking to trigger. Quick cut from John. And that bounce shot hits the top crossbar. Barely misses going in. We had a great angle on that shot, Jordan. That was fantastic. I mean, there's not much you can do as a goalie right there.
No.
Bounce was just going to either live and die with her best friend, the crossbar, making the save, or it was going to be a goal.
Yeah, and that's actually John using the same movement that Addison England scored with just a minute ago, that bouncer coming just a foot higher and nailing that pipe. But that's been an effective play for the Knights, of cutting right across the face of the goalie and then shooting to the backside of the cage. So they're going to call free position here. Looked like shooting space. Like John, I believe, is going to take this.
Very difficult to defend John anywhere in the shooting space. When she's in the 8-meter and you're one of those defenders, you really you have to have a defender, at least in that case on the inside, on the right-hand side, somebody that can get in and stop her from coming across the face of the cage.
Yeah, again, it's similar to the goal she had on the free position earlier. When she's able to get in front, cut to her right, which is her strong hand, and then square her shoulders to the goal, it gives her so many options when shooting, and she's going to finish that almost every single time. So great job by John utilizing what she does best.
Defenders need to, first of all, keep up with their first step and then be able to get that stick knowing she's going to come underneath. Let the goalie make the initial save. Trust the goalie to that. Don't give her anything better by allowing her to come underneath the defense.
Come back to the goal circle, or the draw circle, where Addison England has been taking quite a few draws, as Coach Whitworth's been trying to give some experience to the other players in this draw circle. Pushes it to the outside, and you've got Blair Harley in position, gains possession, North Carolina Wesleyan on the attack.
Upchurch doing a good job winning the draw control for her team, and we're going to get a yellow card on Mulitalo. I believe it's going to be a 2-minute penalty with just 15 seconds left in the quarter. This penalty will likely bleed over into the second half unless the Bishops can manage to score.
Yeah, that would release the penalty. But they've got an offensive set, being one girl up, so it gives them the advantage. I think as long as they can keep their passing precise, we're going to see exactly how the Battling Bishops have been able to amass these conference wins. This is their best opportunity up to this point.
The referee really didn't like how high that check from Mulitalo came and chose to elicit the almost like we call the maximum penalty you could get for that kind of check. 2-minute yellow card. Excellent check from England. Puts the ball on the ground, and the clock will expire With the Knights up 11-1, we had a goal change, by the way. You look down, you see for the Knights, the new goalie Madeline Pedroza in, the senior from Bakersfield, California, went to Liberty High School. Believe that Coach Whitworth will sub liberally going into the second half. Maybe not right away, but certainly within the first few minutes, I think she'll start to cycle through players that have been on the bench.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Up to this point, we've seen the Knights really take control of the possession of this game, getting quite a few more shots on goal, or shots in general, than the Battling Bishops have, and we see the goal differential in 11-1 being a huge difference maker, and how the coach's strategies at halftime are going to be and what they do in the second half. So I'll be curious to see where the transition game adjustments can be for the Bishops. I think that's the key area they need to look at to get more offensive sets and more opportunities to close the gap.
We'll come back in about 8 minutes, go over the first half stats, and look forward to the second half. Stay with us. Enjoy your break and grab some drink and chips and come back in 8. And we're back for the beginning of the second half as the Knights women's lacrosse team here at Southern Virginia University taking on the North Carolina Wesleyan Battling Bishops. The Knights up 11-1. Looking over the stats, Jordan, who I'm joined by, I'm Scotty Winterton again with Jordan Sorensen, goalie coach, consummate consultant for times past, both the men's and the women's lacrosse team here at Southern Virginia University. Also works with IT here at SVU and fantastic on the broadcast. Looking over the stats, Tyler John leads the Knights with 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists. Alyssa Johnson with 4 goals, 1 assist. England, 2 goals, 1 assist. And Alyssa Johnson leads the team with 3 ground balls. Goes down from there. On the Wesleyan side, the only goal coming off the stick of Blair Harley, really the only shot as well. One shot on goal, 1 goal.
Yep.
So 100%. They just need to generate more. And it's been this middle of the field, between the lines, as we would say, or in the men's game, or you got to get down into the red zone. To make a football analogy, if you never get into the red zone, you're rarely going to score, which is like the 20-yard line and in football. And the Bishops have just struggled in the clear game to get the ball in offense.
And you'll see the strategy of the Knights, again, just stuffing players in that center of the field, is hurting what the Battling Bishops would like to do, which is find their key, very fast girl and kind of run through that position. But there's so many bodies in front, it's forcing those passes, which isn't playing to how the Bishops like to traditionally clear the ball up the field, and it's forcing them to adjust. And so far they've been struggling to do so.
They can move the ball inside out, which is what I mean by that is get to the middle of the field and look to go outside and then back inside. You can usually find space. John trying to find some shooting space of her own, can't find it. Will reset. Johnson trying to find Mitchell. Can't do it.
Upchurch huge in that situation there, where she was able to play great defense, cause the turnover, couldn't quite recover it to get into the transition, and the ball falls back into the Knights. Until that point, it was a great series by AJ Upchurch. And we'll look to her in the second half. She'll be one of those key defensive players that the Battling Bishops are looking to involve more to cause those turnovers and give them opportunities to get it up the field. The Knights are setting up their motion offense, again, now feeding to Adelaide Smith on top. She feeds the ball a lot from this position. Again, drawing that double and watching for that feed as Chloe Mitchell's coming through. Not open, but misses the pass to a cutting John. They're able to recover and work it back to X behind the goal.
Looked like that pass was a little forced. The defender had stuck with the cutter well. And here, unassisted, we see the Knights, Piper Searle, come through from the attack side. First dodge we've really seen from underneath be successful for the Knights in terms of eliciting a goal. Searle came in the game with 5 goals and 4 assists, with 9 points on 15 shots. Excellent shooting percentage, 85% shot on goal percentage, 5 out of 5 in her free play goal scoring opportunities. So very efficient player. You love players who don't need a lot of ball time that can still score, which Searle is one. And you see why on that shot.
Yeah, she almost all of her shots have come dodging from the wings or from X in previous games up to this point as well. It's where she feels the most comfortable trying to sweep in from the backside of the cage. She takes the most amount of shots for this Knights team starting from behind the goal compared to any other player who usually the rest of their offense runs through the center of the cage. So that's a great job by Piper, and look to see if she gets the ball in her stick more coming into the second half. Knights look to have an illegal movement on the draw circle to give a green card, as I'm not entirely sure. We don't have communication directly with the field to hear what the ref is saying, but possibly it could be interference on the goal circle, which would give that free turnover. They will shoot. Piper Searle will have to sit. I didn't see the time that the ref gave on that penalty. It'll be 1 or 2 minutes, which we'll find out here shortly which one it is. But the Knights will play down for a short period of time, as there was a penalty there by the Knights.
But then the quick turnover in transition, Jordan, given right back from John, trying to find Mitchell. Blair Harley did a great job to intercept that ball. And now Mulitalo, who is back in after the yellow card, sitting out her time. She finds Mariela Perez, the freshman defender from Pleasant Grove, Utah.
And you gotta, if you're Coach Walker for the Battling Bishops, you like to see that Blair Harley's starting to get more and more involved in all facets of the game, which anytime you got a star player like her, you want. They couldn't quite come away with the full transition, but seeing her activity has got a point of encouragement for the Battling Bishops moving to the second half here.
England looks to initiate with Johnson. Now over to John. Really just a little bit of a weave well outside the 12-meter line. Just killing some time. There is 10 minutes now left in the third quarter and 36 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah, we're in this time. I would imagine that the Knights will probably wait till about 30 to 20 seconds left on the shot clock before getting the green light to go to goal, as trying to whittle down a bit more of that clock as that's exactly 20 seconds left. You can see the pressure of the Knights has intensified as they're starting to look for those opportunities, those cutters, and that individual isolation as Alyssa Johnson has the ball up top. 10 seconds on the shot clock.
England, double team, comes out of it looking for cutters. Now uses this little scissor cut, pick on ball. Doesn't really net an opportunity, and the Knights will turn the ball over. I'm sure that Coach Whitworth is happy that they used up the shot clock, but you want to generate offense, even if you're going to wait till the very end. Missing, overrunning the ball was Bailey Bruce. Now 3 Knights on the ground ball, and there's going to be a violation called. I believe it'll be on the Knights. And a free position play coming for Mackenzie Swan. The 5-foot freshman from Waldorf, Maryland, went to Thomas Stone High School. Low angle shot. She'll have Bailey Bruce on her right-hand side. Defense does a great job disrupting the shot, and save from Pedroza, and she'll quickly outlet. Ball's on the ground, and Perez will eventually come up with it. She'll try to escape on her own, cannot. Smartly gets the ball in the stick of Mulitalo.
Yeah, it was good defensive pressure there as Perez tried to get up the field, and she found herself with 3 blue jerseys around her. If you're the Battling Bishops, that's exactly the pressure that you want. The Knights able to get out of it, pass it around the field, and find the hole up the field for Bruce. But that's a good sign of life in that side of the field and the defensive side for against the Knights transition. So definitely things of encouragement and things that we want to see more of from the Bishops moving forward in this game.
The Knights with a number of substitute players in from the bench. Rowe looking to trigger the offense. Eventually, she'll get it back to Searle, who we've already seen loves to come from behind the cage, has the capacity to get open. And Johnson, who's now playing defense, Alyssa Johnson, is switched over to the defensive side of the field. Something that a coach can do if she's trying to get as many players as possible, time on the ball and offensive opportunities. Searle had to really do something with it because the shot clock was running down. Eventually, the shot clock goes to 0-0, and great pressure from England on the ball. She's got 3 girls, 4, 5 girls she's trying to beat. You wouldn't expect anything less from England than to take on a 2-on-5 situation. Violation called on the Knights. It'll be, a timeout, I think.
Yeah, looks like we have a
timeout. Yeah, timeout from Coach Whitworth.
And that was a smart take by number 13 for North Carolina Wesleyan, Naomi Gitahi, to pick up the ball after that shot clock violation, try to bounce it to the outside. The defensive pressure made it difficult to get it all the way back. The ball comes loose. The Knights able to recover. We'll see coming into this timeout what it is that Coach Whitworth wants to adjust as she's taken Alyssa Johnson, moved her into the defensive end, and who's really being the captain of this Knights offensive set and directing how they're going to run their offense. So these are big changes that are giving other players the opportunity to not just step up and get play time, but get time comfortable commanding, directing, and building that chemistry with the rest of the program, which are so critical as you start preparing for things like a conference tournament in the future, where you don't always have every player you'd like on the field. You know, it's a long season. You never know what's going to happen. The more experience you can give to players playing, directing, leadership roles, the better. So impressive changes that they've made. I think it's very wise on Coach Whitworth's part to make those changes, and we'll see how effective it is. We're now at 12-1, 6 minutes and 31 seconds in the third quarter, and transitioning into kind of the tail end of the meat of this game. and see what the Bishops are able to do, if they're able to start closing this gap at all, or if it's going to be the Knights using a lot of time, a lot of possession, and kind of running the clock.
You mentioned Alyssa Johnson moving over to the defensive end. It'll be interesting to see if she can match her output of last year. Last year, really kind of a record-setting season for Johnson. She set the single-season scoring record for the Knights with 63 points. She was top 5 in the Coast to Coast Conference, which is a pretty good conference in women's lacrosse. Some of the top teams in the country are in that conference. Managed to get 47 goals, played and started all 15 games, and was second team all conference, as well as earning Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week in March 8th of 2021. She also led the team with 33 points as a freshman in 2020. So her progress really seems to be moving forward in terms of her growth. And I like that she's added creativity and kind of some spontaneity to her game, along with just the athleticism that she brings. She's now back on the offensive end. And as you mentioned, just a little over 6 minutes left with a 60-second shot clock.
I say one of those players that Alyssa Johnson surpassed on the all-time goals list for the Knights is current coach, former player Rainey Whitworth, who had a very successful career at Southern Virginia before going into coaching at a few different places, and winding up back here as the head coach. And we couldn't be happier to have her, and she couldn't be prouder of Alyssa Johnson and how she's been able to come along as a player.
England doing a good job finding some shooting space on the feed from Johnson. When you're shooting from that far out, that's about an 8-yard shot. That's always a worry. Are you taking and shooting right away without having the correct shooting space available? Face dodge doesn't work out for Martin. Looked like she was going to be able to come underneath her defender and can't get her stick back, protected with the ball in it. And now, best midfield passing we've seen out of the Bishops. And just as I say that, an errant pass. And the Knights will look to clear on their own, as Adelaide Smith will finish up. Control for the Knights. Johnson and England connecting on that pass, and we'll see England not really in her normal state, which is hold up and burn some clock. That is not where her electrons sit in their natural state. She is much more excitable than that. But listening to Coach John, trying to create opportunity. The cut from Johnson. Ball is on the ground, but she grabs it and finishes. That's a really, really difficult finish. Not because the finish itself was so hard. She's sitting on the goal without really anybody in front of her. But she missed the pass, and it hit the ground to scoop that up in traffic and then to finish. And she does it perfectly where you're in tight. You bring the stick overhand. And we talk about finishing from your ear. You know, when you got the stick of your ear, you can go low or high. A lot of times players will drop the stick down. When you drop your stick down, what does the goalie do?
Yeah, they're going to come down with it every time.
But she shoots from her ear. Goalie stays high. She brings the shot down low corner. Tough goal to save.
Yeah, and I say I was really impressed with John as well, who I don't know how she found Johnson cutting in that set and is able to find her for just a great feed, great catch. I mean, the entire set there was just impressive play from two of the stars for the Knights, and you see why they've been so successful working together on the season. So really impressive stuff. We get the draw control as a good battle comes up with Alyssa Johnson. She's used that underhand pass for control and getting to her teammates a few times. We see England come up the field and scores a goal on the right-hand side of the goal with just a strong, powerful finish. As you were talking about electrons earlier, those are the electrons of Addison, England.
Yeah, I have brothers-in-law. Brother-in-laws? What's the plural of that?
Nobody knows.
Brothers-in-law? I think it's brothers-in-law that are chemists. And I believe that they would agree with me that that her electron state is functions in a higher state than normal. And it is fantastic to watch England play the game of lacrosse by how much effort and energy she brings into the offensive side. You always have to be ready, not only to bring one player, obviously stop the ball, but you need to have a second player ready to pinch that, slow her down, because she's going to drive through a lot of stick checks. She has excellent protection of the ball, and here she is back at the face-off, the draw circle, going against Bjornstam.
And the Knights have been able to get off quite a few high-value possession shots, just high percentage, and it's made things difficult for Bouts, who is actually coming off of Defensive Player of the Week for the conference last week, as she posted a 2-1 record with over 26 saves. And so it's always difficult when you have teams like the Knights that are getting such high-value shots. It doesn't matter how well you're playing cage. She's had some great-looking saves on the day, but when you're seeing so many and shots that you're getting 75 or higher percentage chance of scoring on, it makes it very, very difficult. So we'll look to see if the Battling Bishops defense can start closing some of those gaps and making those shots just a little bit more difficult to lower those angles.
Pepperoni trying to find the cutter, Skylar Rowe. Ball deflects off of the Bishops, so it'll stay Knights ball. And Searle trying to find some space, feeds Mitchell, but the pass unable to be completed. Knights on the ground ball. And that's really been the story of the game. You can look back across the quarters, and when you're looking at the Knights with 13 ground balls to 4 ground balls of Wesleyan, that itself is really a tale of the tape in terms of why the possession has been so heavily favored. The Knights with 20 shots on goal and the Bishops with 2. Pass, fantastic feed and finish from Pepperoni to John. John cutting straight down the heart of the defense. That's the first pass and finish we've seen from behind the goal for the Knights. It's good to see them kind of varying up the offensive positions in terms of where they're looking to feed from and generate offense from, Jordan.
Well, I say that's exactly what Coach Whitworth would like to see out of her offense. They whittled the shot clock. There might have been 1 or 2 seconds left on that shot clock when John finished, so they used the entire length of time, and they run an offensive set. You'll notice watching the replay, and I'd imagine we're going to see something similar moving forward. They ran 4 to 5 girls in the top of that second line, the 8-meter fan on the inside, and they used picks. They were basically creating space for each other, trying to find the open cutter. John came off the right side of a pick from her, I believe it was Johnson who set the pick, comes off the right side. Her defender hits the pick. She isn't able to roll off of it quick enough to a speeding John straight to goal, who's able to find an open spot and finish strong. And she has had a phenomenal game, John, up to this point.
Yeah, to your point, Jordan, when you look at the numbers, John now with 7 points on 4 goals and 3 assists, and those 4 goals coming on just 6 shots. So playing very efficiently, adding 4 goals and 3 assists, that puts her at 20 goals and 8 assists for the season and 29 points overall, which she's really starting to battle those top 2 players, Chloe Mitchell and Alyssa Johnson, for the leading point scorer for the Knights, which is a huge jump. Last year, she started 8 games. She played in all 15, but she only had 8 goals last year. She's already up to 20 goals. I mean, she has really found her own groove, and when you watch her, when you combine the play of John and England, these young players who are really Energizer bunnies on the field, with the skill sets and the creativity of Johnson and Mitchell, that's a pretty potent offense, and those goals can come from anywhere. And now you see Searle from behind the cage really trying to get her own. The Knights are starting to develop into a team that is going to be tough to handle going forward in the conference. It's going to be a handful. And I think the Knights are really looking for the opportunity to start to make a mark in that top 25 or 30, mark on the country. They're not quite there yet, but when you see players developing like this, you know that Coach Whitworth has them on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. And John, like you said earlier, has been playing so well. And I think one thing that she's developed on, worked on a lot, and is starting to really see pay off is her trust in her athleticism to put her in the right position. We've seen several free positions like that. She used her speed to get her in the right spot to finish the shot. And then her confidence in catching in traffic. That has improved and impressed up to this point in the season. Catching those, bullet passes, knifing through the defense, and getting that shot off is one of the more difficult things you can do in lacrosse. And she has done that at a high level of efficiency, and it's what's converted into a very successful campaign, very successful year for her. And Piper Searle, who you talked about earlier, you'll see her feet. What I see is great, fantastic footwork on her part and shiftiness that is giving her space to get those shots. So impressive things from the Knights from those two young developing players. As it looks like the Knights moved early and the ball goes quick to North Carolina Wesleyan, but the check from Addison, England gets the turnover and marches right down the field.
So the Knights will be a player down, and they score man down with England, who just will not be stopped. Not only did she get the takeaway with a sweet check, gets the ground ball, and then pushes in transition before the defense of the Bishops can get settled in any real form, and then ends up scoring. Looked like it went 5-hole on Bouts. What more can England do than what she did? That's like getting a solo triple play in baseball.
Yeah, no, that was just great play from Addison, England. The Knights have been hit twice, I believe. We don't have communication with the field. We can't quite hear what the refs are saying. But by their the signs that they're using with their hands, I believe it's just a violation on the goal circle, and they're giving cards for it. But the refs have been really aggressive on that call and caught the Knights twice with it.
We have a goalie change. Kaya Owens, the sophomore from Goldsboro, North Carolina, has come in. Ball bounces around, eventually ends up in the hands of Key. The Holly Springs, North Carolina native, went to Holly Springs High School. Into the hands of Harley. I'd like to see some offense here from Harley. I really want to see what she has to offer.
You're going to go straight for a timeout. As Coach Walker wants to set up an offensive set, really take advantage of the opportunity. They haven't had many offensive opportunities, so I think Coach Walker's just thinking, let's maximize what we have here, run a set that we feel most comfortable with, get our girls in the positions that we want them in, and try to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, you're not looking at a comeback when you're down 16-1 in the fourth quarter. You're looking for chances to use the film to show, hey, catch your team doing it right. You just want to show that, when we have the ball, we can do good things. And so you call a timeout just to get things settled and focus in on here's what we want to do so that we can feel good about ourselves. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. I'm sure it's hopefully something that will end up with Harley either on the ball or triggering the offense to create opportunities for her team. Not a lot of assisting going on. Even the players, so like second in the team in scoring is Madeline Graham. She has 15 goals and 3 assists. I mentioned earlier that Harley has 34 goals and 2 assists. Only 14 assists on the season with their 4-6 record. By contrast, the Knights, who have played 2 less games, have 44 assists on the season compared to that 14. So just 2 very different kinds of offenses, and not saying necessarily that one is right or one is wrong. The Knights are very much about sharing and cutting and generating opportunities off of their dodge where they're looking for each other and playing with their heads up. And it seems, just looking over the numbers and a little bit of the offense we've seen, that the Bishops more in really driving one-on-one and finishing when you look at 34 goals and 2 assists, 15 goals, 3 assists, 9 goals and no assists, 6 goals and 1 assist. That was 4 of the top 5 scorers for the Bishops.
Yeah, and you'll see the offensive set that Coach Whitworth has put in has resulted in a lot of those assists, because the Knights used to be very ISO heavy, very one girl beating her defender and going to goal, as we get a turnover right there. And the Knights on the transition up the field.
Alyssa Johnson quickly ahead to Mulitalo, the defender who just played Harley, probably as good as anybody in the conference has played her. And so smart from Coach Whitworth. I'm sure she said to Mulitalo, wherever Harley goes, that's who you're going to be playing. And she D'd up Harley in a way that as she tried to find her teammate, quick pass caught, intercepted by Johnson, and the Knights are able to transition to the offense fairly easily.
So Knights setting up their offense. We're almost down to 30 seconds of the shot clock, which is where they really start taking off. We've got 12 and a half minutes left here in the third, as the Knights have had plenty of shots to 6 saves. Look at that, Piper Seal creating with her feet again, and a phenomenal finish by Johnson, finding just that sliver of room. Cyril drew the defense. I think she drew two, possibly three defenders with her. Found Johnson cutting on the backside, who the defense just left, and just finding enough room off that left foot from Micaiah Owens to sneak that ball in. Again, goes to the creativity of Johnson.
Well, it's funny. So during the previous timeout, I'm watching the offense gathered around Coach Whitworth, and Searle and Johnson were having a conversation where they talked about this pass, and she told Searle, when you drive up, I'm going to catch at the pipe. I mean, I could read her lips almost, because she was in there saying, I'll catch the exact shot that you just saw. I saw Johnson mimic maybe 2 or 3 times talking to Searle on that play. And it's, really funny that, you love it. I love it. The old A-team quote. I love it when a plan comes together. So that was a nice little 2-woman play that Searle and Johnson had put together. And you mentioned that catch and finish, that up fake, and then the ability to bring the stick down. And what she did is she got her stick out in front of her. She was standing at GLE, goal line extended. There was nothing that she could see that was any of significance in terms of how much goal she could see. But when you bring your stick down and out, now the head of your stick now sees more of the cage and able to wrap that ball around the feet of the goalie.
Yep. That's just a strong finish, as the Knights are battling in the transition to see who can come up with that ball. You got two jerseys of each team, 3 for the Knights now. They're going to come up with North Carolina Wesleyan on the attack, utilizing their speed. They've got numbers. They have the advantage coming down here. Let's see what they can do with it as they push it in, and great defense from the Knights turns the ball over.
Again, Mulitalo there on defense with several of her teammates, not giving Blair Harley any space at all to really start to feel comfortable and find opportunities to generate her own shot. They've basically turned Harley into a feeder, and she really hasn't been able to do anything with that to capitalize on those opportunities. And what I mean by turning her into a feeder, they're double and triple teaming her very quickly if she's ever in a dangerous shooting space.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking, is they're putting her in the position where she needs to feed to somebody else, whereas I think that the Battling Bishops would prefer it being the other way around, that one of the other players, maybe Ashlyn Key, who's had the ball quite a bit, can draw that double and dump it to Harley, which is exactly how they got their first goal. So the Knights are moving it to the outside, really testing the waters. They're about those 30 seconds, so expect them to really press as Pepperoni finds Skylar Rowe in the front, can't quite handle the pass, and push it to the outside to set up their motion offense with the last 20 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah, this is where we've seen most of the offense generated by the Knights. Great save from Bouts. The shot, stick side high. Bouts able to stay with it to get the save.
Yeah, it was good. Stick side high shot, and Bouts right there for that save. That was just good positioning by the goalie. Got her stick up in the lane and able to for maybe the first time today, slow John down.
Pass cross field, but Naomi Gatai unable to do anything with it. Ball bounces, goes out of bounds, and the ball will be in England's stick. She'll put it ahead to Mitchell. Mitchell been a little quiet on the afternoon, done a great job in draw control.
She has been quiet today. I think a lot of that comes to the early success from the Knights and not necessarily the need to get her as involved as she has been in the past, but you're absolutely right. It's been a little bit of a quiet day for her.
Yeah, just one assist on the afternoon. She comes into the game second in the team with 14 goals and 14 assists, 28 points.
Knights creating from that backside. They get the goal with, it looked like Martin, again, using that speed, coming around from X, just curling around the cage and what we call a crease roll, faster than the defense can catch up with her, finding just enough space to finish to the right side of the goalie, which is one of the most dangerous spots for a shooter to finish as you're sweeping around in the cage. So there's just great offensive individual effort from Martin.
Martin, a freshman from Fayetteville, North Carolina, went to Cape Fear High School. It's a great name for a high school. I wonder what their mascot is.
It's a great name. It sounds like the name that you make up for a TV show.
I believe there is a show called Cape Fear, a movie called Cape Fear. Yeah, 1991 psychological thriller, Martin Scorsese film.
Hopefully the high school is a little more positive than that.
We've got a timeout on the field.
With 6:54 to play in the fourth quarter.
So it's the Cape Fear Colts, as you would expect.
Yep, that makes sense.
Or not. So 6:54 left. The Knights, in dominating fashion, putting up 18 goals, only giving up one assist. And really it's been the midfield play, the play between the lines.
Yeah, I say
is dominated for the Knights.
When you get a lot of offensive sets, you're going to get a lot of offensive goals, regardless of how the goalies are, how well the goalies are playing. Which again, the goalies have had some good saves when they've been put in good positions with lower percentage shots where they have good angles. They've made great saves, but constantly they've seen so many shots. They've seen a lot of high value shots, and those are gonna fall. Again, the best women's lacrosse goalies in the country average at about 60%. You're basically playing outside of your mind. And that just shows to say how difficult being a goaltender can be inside of particularly women's lacrosse, where so many shots come inside of 10 meters. So it's a tough job. And when you see this many shots, it tends to be an outcome 18-1. And the Knights are really doing their best to separate themselves at the top of the conference standings. And I think that might be the number one takeaway for the Southern Virginia University Knights women's lacrosse team, is they are taking sole possession of that first place at this point. And that's, who wouldn't want to be there? Coach Whitworth can't be any happier with that position. As both teams take the field after that timeout, again, 6:54 to play. We are now in a running clock, been for a little bit, which moves that time just a little bit more. One thing I guess I did want to clarify that we saw earlier in the game was a green card. I think there's been 2 green cards, which is actually a call for a delay of game. And that could be maybe not getting in position quick enough. The refs gave a command, you need to stand here, do this, and a player thinking they had just an extra second, and the refs didn't want them to take that extra second. You call that, and that is always given to the team, one of the team captains. So if we see any more green cards, that's what that is issued for.
And, it's referees kind of being human as it is. When there's a thing like the score, a game like this, they don't give much leeway to the team that's leading in terms of kind of those moments where, you might just say, hey, hurry up, what like that. They'll find reasons to help the team that's on the losing end of an 18-1 score sheet. And I'm not saying like cheat-wise at all. I'm just saying this is kind of human nature, I think, to make sure that everything's called very tight for the team that's winning.
As Bruce tries to take that transition, and she gets double teamed and just barely puts her foot on that line. That's going to, of course, be called the ref right there and gets a turnover. We see this offensive set as the Battling Bishops look to set it up. They're trying to rotate the ball around and get it to their star players as Upchurch has the ball. And look at the Knights pressing out early and often on Harley, trying to stop her from having any opportunity to be more effective in this game.
Yeah, for a moment there, Jordan, all of the Knights' defenders, except for the two that were covering the players down behind GLE, were outside the 12-meter. And you do not see that very often in defense.
Yeah, that's putting a high level of confidence in your players to keep their head up and not let a player slip behind them for an easy pass and catch in the middle of the field. And it's paid off for the Knights. They get in their offensive set, almost lose it behind the cage, a battle for the ball as Harley comes up with it, gets it up the field, and that's Upchurch recovering it and trying to find room to run up the field. This is where they've struggled in transition, but so far, so good. As Upchurch comes with the double, the ball is stripped away. It's loose and kicked to the outside. And looks like Harley comes up with it.
They had the shot clock reset. I'm not sure it should have reset. I don't think the Knights ever came up with an actual possession, but they are going to call a reset, and either way, it ends up being a turnover off the clearing pass, and Rowe pushed the ball up. Many defenders back. She didn't really have many options in terms of pressing the offense, so she'll throw over to Martin, and Martin will carry around to X. The Knights will look to move the ball around. 4:20 left in the game, 70-second shot clock. Most of the Knights' starters have been subbed out. You see Roxy LeBaron is in. She's on the ball now.
Normally playing defense, it's nice to see her get that transition on the other side of the field as she gets the shot and the goal right there. Finish from LeBaron.
Drives to her left-hand side, but not a lot of pressure on her. So as she came around that left, she's able to keep the ball in her strong right hand, turn, and get a right-handed shot off. Defenders need to have enough pressure on her right there that she can't get it to her strong hand.
Yeah, it's one of the key things there. Turning, again, when you're running to your left and you turn your upper body to your right, it allows you to get those hands free. And I think most important, where you feel the most comfortable, you see players do this, it's where you have the most accuracy. So you can't necessarily get a lot of power behind that shot because you're kind of moving your body one way and twisting it the opposite way to get your hands free, but it creates a high level of accuracy, and she puts the ball in a great spot just outside of the step from Devin Bouts and is able to finish strong.
And that drive coming off of a little pick from the Knights and the defense from the Bishops, not able to stay, ends up just trailing her. As an offensive player, you want to work hard to get defenders on your hip, or even better, on your back. And if you need a defender on your back, you're in a really good position to draw a double, and if the double never comes, to be in a shooting position. You just got to remember to protect the stick because you know that back check is coming.
As LeBaron comes strong off that draw, really making her presence felt here, coming with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, which you got to be happy with.
If you're a Knights fan.
Shot and goal.
We're waiting to see what the call is.
They're going to call the goal good.
Goal is good. It was a bit of a conversation, it looked like.
I think they were debating whether or not there was any dangerous shot involved in that. They eventually call that the space was clean. Adelaide Smith with strong play inside, finishing with her left hand, which is, again, coming from a freshman, you want to see them finishing strong left-handed shots. When the freshmen are getting involved and shooting more difficult shots and completing them, that's the kind of game experience that pays off down the road for their careers. So great effort from Smith and getting her, was that her third goal of the game or second?
Second goal of the game and her 8th goal on the season. And that's 2 goals on 2 shots. Very efficient player. coming into the game, she only had a shooting percentage of 30%. So in terms of goal scoring and shots, so doing much better today than she has other parts of the season. And the win on the draw control gets to the hands of Adelaide Smith, the past recent goal scorer, and the Knights, with only 50 seconds left in the quarter, shot clock irrelevant, turned off. Knights content to just wear out the clock. They may not get a shot in the next 30 seconds, which I'm sure Coach Whitworth would be fine with. Although when England is on the ball, you know that she is chomping at the bit to push it.
You might not be able to stop her. Rotating 15 seconds to play here. Knights maybe looking for one last finish as they're just testing their opportunities. As Skylar Rowe takes a shot wide, gets deflected, the Knights will recover it with 3, 2, 1, and that'll be the ball game.
So the Knights finish out getting to 20 goals, holding the Bishops to just 1. We open up this broadcast by talking about how this would be a good test for the Bishops to see where they are relative to the top couple teams in the conference. Meredith, who, when you look over the preseason poll, Meredith was picked to finish first, and I mentioned they are 2-0 in conference, and these Battling Bishops came in at 3-0 along with the Knights at 3-0. Seems to be a pretty big disparity right now from the top couple teams to the rest of the conference. The Knights really putting their stamp on this play and maybe sending a message to the rest of the conference that if you're going to win a conference championship, it's going to come through Knights Field here in Buena Vista.
Absolutely. Coach Whitworth's got to come away very happy. Their transition game in particular is able to control the field, not allow the Battling Bishops to transition just by running, really forcing them into passing sets, which took advantage of an area the Bishops have been trying to improve on the season. And they're able to dominate the time of possession and come out on top. And again, Bishops saw a few things that they want to build off of. But particularly, I think that they'll continue to work on that transition game up the field to get those offensive sets. But if you're a Knights fan, you come away feeling happy, and is a good, strong finish.
They finished with a total of 9 assists on those 20 goals. It was interesting in the early part of the first half when the Knights had 7 or 8 goals, all but one were assisted. The last 5 or 6 goals and then like 9 of the last 10 ended up being unassisted goals where the Knights were just taking the ball to the rack and weren't necessarily looking to feed. And I think it was because the doubles weren't coming. I think the Bishops got a little worn down. You get a little tired. You're not helping out as much. And so the Knights now don't have to really look to feed. They can take their player one-on-one. The double team's not there. And now you're getting shots against the goalie without the feeds. Knights happy with this, I'm sure, but preparing for what's ahead. The Bishops, I'm sure that Coach Walker will take her ladies back home, figure out how they can be competitive the rest of the season. Maybe not necessarily looking to at this top tier, but you want to stay competitive in conference and making it a conference tournament. And the Bishops are in a great position to do that.
Especially, again, to reiterate, this is their most successful season that they've ever had up to this point. So there's plenty to look forward to for the Bishops. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast today.
I hope everybody takes care of each other out there. Stay safe. God bless.
And go Knights!